Let me turn to the whole issue of terrorism and the funding of it. This is Newsweek magazine. Headline, New Questions About Saudi Money and Bandar. A federal investigation into the bank accounts of the Saudi embassy in Washington has identified more than $27 million in suspicious transactions, including hundreds of thousands of dollars paid to Muslim charities and to clerics and Saudi students who are being scrutinized for possible links to terrorist activity, according to government documents. The probe also has uncovered large wire transfers overseas by the Saudi ambassador to the U.S., Prince Bandar bin Sultan. The transactions recently prompted the Saudi embassy's longtime bank, Riggs Bank, to drop the Saudis as a client after embassy officials were unable to provide an explanation that was satisfying, saying a source familiar with the discussions.
Tim, if that was true, I think it will make a great movie, but it's not true. We terminated. Riggs Bank problem is a regulation problem that has nothing to do with Saudi Arabia. However, Riggs Bank and us came to mutual agreement to terminate our relationship. As far as the embassy's accounts, or my wife's account, or my account, there is not one question that we had from the U.S. government of concern of what happened to these accounts. But here is the problem. When a story like this that has a prince, a princess, money, terrorism, it is exotic. The tragedy that I find I like this country and I like the American people, they're fair people. But one thing that is done in this country that really disappoints me, and I could say something stronger, is when somebody puts a story like that, like Newsweek did, it's a big story. When the two people that started all of this, Mr. Basnan and Bayoumi, a month ago the FBI came and said after 2 years of investigation, there is no connections, there is no foul play. Guess what? How many times did you make a special program about it, or Newsweek have an announcement? They didn't.
Prince, the former General Counsel of the Department of Treasury, David Offhauser, a professional, a lawyer, testifying under oath before the Senate Judiciary Committee. Question, with regard to the trail of money and whether it leads in some cases to Saudi Arabia, Offhauser, in many cases it is at the epicenter. Question, and does that trail of money also show money going to Al-Qaeda? Offhauser, yes. Is the money from Saudi Arabia a significant source of funding for terrorism generally? Offhauser, yes. Principally Al-Qaeda, but many other recipients as well. This was the scene in April 2002, when your king, a state-sponsored telethon, and look at these pictures, raised over $92 million. And the money was, quote, for Palestinian martyrs, suicide bombers who blew up Israeli children, school buses, restaurants. Here's the Treasury Department of the United States saying that Saudi money is funding Al-Qaeda. You're having telethons raising money for Palestine suicide bombers, and you sit here and say, how could people say these terrible things about us?
Yes, I say that very easily because nothing stands still. If you're saying before 9/11 we didn't have our thing together, yes, but nor did you. Look what 9/11 is showing. However,
this was April of 2002.
I understand. Since then, since 9/11, after we recovered from the shock, we looked at all our procedures, and we have come through and we're proud of it. And listen to, you read to me a quote, let me read to you. The same man you quoted, in a hearing afterward, said exactly the opposite to this. Secretary Snow, in public in Saudi Arabia and in a briefing here, says the opposite to that. And the Financial Action Task Force of the Organization of the Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD, just came out with a report in March. It says, in the area of charitable giving, new regulations to crack down on abuses at Saudi Arabian-based charities probably go further than any country in the world. This is done by the G7.
Here's the perception amongst many Americans. That the Saudis, and many members in Congress, and you've talked to them as well as I have.
Correct.
The Saudis play a double game. They open up the spigot and say, it's all right to vent your hostility towards the United States. Just leave us in the monarchy alone. But now the genie's out of the bottle. But the problem is, how did people develop such hostile attitudes towards the United States? A commission was created by Congress. And here's the report from May of 2003, the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom. Independent studies conducted in recent months indicated that official government textbooks published by the Saudi Ministry of Education include offensive and discriminatory language, in some cases promote intolerance, hatred of other religious groups. Major findings: 1, Islam. Specifically, the Wahhabi interpretation is presented as the only true religion, and all other religions are considered invalid and misguided. Christians and Jews repeatedly labeled as infidels, enemies of Islam, who should not be befriended or emulated, and referred to in 8th grade textbooks as apes and pigs. Jews are regularly referred to as wicked nation, characterized by bribery, deception, betrayal. And those who abandon Islam for another religion deserve to be killed or at least imprisoned. If you teach your kids that in Saudi Arabia and in the madrasas around the world, of course they're going to hate the United States and Israel. In January of 2009, 16 employees of your embassy had their diplomatic visas revoked. Why? Because they were teaching at the Institute for Islamic and Arabic Services over in Virginia, and our government said that we had to protect our homeland and remove them from our country.
That's
the reality.
That's not true, Tim. If it was the reality, I don't blame the American people to hate us, but that is not the reality. Those people you're talking about, in the 14 people, were teachers in this institute. They were on the diplomatic list of the embassy for about 15 years. The law has changed, so all what the State Department said, change their visas. So we had to send them home so they can change their visa and come on different visa. That's all what happened there.
Here's your own newspaper, the Arab News editorial. This is terribly important.
I agree with you, but let me comment on, you said you read to me along charges or comments from Congress and the reports. If that was true, then of course our people should hate America. But go to Zogby poll he did. And if you look at that polling, you will find how different the reality there from what the congressional report says. And as far as our education is concerned, we went and looked. Look, Tim, after 9/11, we were shaken to our roots. It was an earthquake for us. And it took us a long time to come out of that shock and say to ourselves, what happened? What happened? So when we looked at our educational system, here is the statistics. We found 85% of the material was acceptable. We found 10% was questionable, meaning it could go either way depending on the teacher. And we found 5% was objectionable. What did we do? We cleared the 5% and we made sure the 10% that's questionable become much more less prone to be misused, and action was taken. It is difficult for people to keep repeating things that happen, and a corrective action was taken.
The Arab newspaper in your country, editorial. So too has the chattering, malicious, vindictive hate propaganda. It has provided a fertile ground for ignorance and hatred to grow.
Yeah.
Here's the Washington Post, not from before September 11th.
But what is the point of that Arabic paper, though?
This is this past Wednesday. Headline: U.S.-Saudi relations show signs of stress. Reformers labeled agents of America. This is last Wednesday.
Yeah.
Reformers in your government, according to Prince Naif, were agents of America, and they were arrested. 3 are still in prison.
Right.
What does that tell us about your country?
Well, if you let me answer, I will tell you. Number one, when you talk about the one before the Arabic paper, you were saying that they were saying bad things about American Christian and so on. Look, have you heard some of the evangelical priests here, what they said about Islam and our prophet? And we all have our own cuckoos, and they all sometimes say the wrong thing.
This is the Minister of Interior.
No, I'm talking about the item before, when you said people were saying these bad things about Christians, pigs, etc., etc. There is a rabbi in Israel who said those Arabs are snakes and they should be gotten rid of. Now, I cannot speak for everybody in my country, nor can you speak for anybody in your country. And if you want to take what the paper said, by golly, I wish you get half of what we get in your news media that we get in our news media. Now, the Minister of Interior, Prince Naif, with the statement you made, I don't know what context it is. If I knew, I could answer you. But Jim Zoghbi made a polling that showed 91% of Saudis said they like America. 95% said that they are against bin Laden, and they don't think what he did is right.
All right, we are out of time. One simple question. Who's more popular in your country, Osama bin Laden or George W. Bush?
We never put this polling there, but...
President Mubarak of Egypt said the hatred towards America is unprecedented in the Arab world. Do you agree with that?
I made the habit not to comment on heads of states' comments, but I'm telling you about Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, majority of the people, over 90%, don't hate Americans. Now, if you insist that they hate America, I cannot help you with that. Finally, I would like to make a comment about Senator Schumer. Senator Schumer is really much nicer person in private when I meet with him than he is on TV. And second, I have an advice for him. Make your words soft and sweet. You never know when you have to eat them. But Saudi Arabia is a friend of yours for 80 years, 60 years, and it will continue to be. And we are target for the same enemy. The bombing in Riyadh 2 days ago was not done by Irish people. It was done by the same people who blew up 9/11. So you cannot tell us that we made the deal with the devil. We didn't. We are declared war on those bad people, and we are going to get them.
To be continued. I hope you'll come back again and share your views.
Look forward to it, Tim.
And we'll be right back with a tribute to Mary McGrory.